Welcome into College Football Smothered and Covered on a beautiful Monday morning, May 6th. Hope you all were safe out there on Cinco de Mayo. Hope you had a great Derby day on Saturday as well. We have a big show today. We'll talk to Jake Crain from the Daily Wire. Of course, he does a great job on Crain and Company in the mornings, every weekday morning over there. So we'll talk about all things college football with Jake. Jake's a great guy. I've known him for a very, very long time. When it comes to college football, in my opinion, there might not be anyone better. And like we say every single day on this show, we want you to consume all the college football content, including Crain and Company. They do a great job, but everybody else along the Believe Network, Jake at Crain Company, whether it be Josh at Late Kick, or Andy Staples at On 3, all these people do a great job. So we want you to consume all of them because you deserve the best content, the best coverage of the greatest sport in the world. And you don't get that through the mainstream media and the new media. You have a chance if you go and take it. And I urge you to go and take it. For those who aren't familiar, this is a revamped edition of SEC Smothered and Covered, which was very successful back between 2016 and 2018. Was forced to give it up for reasons I'm still not very happy about, but whatever. Now we brought this show back. We're making it national. It started back in February, and very, very happy with the reception that you guys have given me. Love the fact that this show is part of your rotation. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please review. 5 stars, 1 stars, whether it be on YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, all those different places. Let's be honest, if you're listening or watching, you probably know how to do the podcast thing. So let your neighbor know. Let your friend know. Let your significant other know, because we want all we can get here on College Football Smothered and Covered. This show brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all things sports this summer, including Major League Baseball, golf, the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, everything this summer. Bet Online has you covered. You get all the latest stats, news, and follow your favorite teams on Bet Online. Get the latest odds and lines as well, including the best team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every game and team out there. Head to the website today, betonline.ag, or check it out on your mobile phone. Bet Online, where the game starts. And of course, always go to Breaking Tea, breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. You can get this great Auburn shirt. It is the Kick Six, and it's got the field diagram of where everybody went on that memorable night in Auburn on the Plains, one of the greatest plays in college football history. You can get this shirt. Go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered, breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. And I'll be honest, I was there that night. It was wild. It was wild. I was actually in the other end zone, the far end zone where Chris Davis caught the ball. He ran basically right in front of me and right away from me. And by the time he got to about midfield, we couldn't see him. There were a lot of big bodies in the way. So we just felt people pushing us on the field. We were sitting there basically on the white lines. All the students started rushing. We didn't want to get trampled. So we just took off. I was probably at the 15-yard line with my recorder before Chris Davis even crossed the goal line. Sprinted across the field, got some sound with him, got some sound with Gus. So that was a memorable night. Go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. And you can remember that night, or just wear the moment with your team, whatever your team is, they've got you covered. Joined now by a good friend. You know him from the Daily Wire. You know him from the Crain and Company. He is Jake Crain. Jake, what's up, man?
Barrett, what is up, brother? It's always a pleasure to join you, my friend, and another day closer to kickoff. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, you know what? There's no off season in this sport because honestly, there's always some sort of news trigger, and it's not structured like the NBA or the NFL. You never know what you're going to get. So we got Colorado. We get Colorado, and look, the portal's closed. They lost Cormani McClain. Deion's Deion. You got Shador ripping on former players. Just overall, what is your take of the Buffs right now?
Well, we're talking about them, so it's
exactly.
They say no pub is bad pub. Now I don't necessarily believe that, but I think and I say this all the time on the show. I think multiple things can be true at once. Like on one hand, now that players want it in the business, and look, guys have been getting cut for a long time. I mean, it's amazing people forget the term processed, where that came from. And this
he said it. That's the one thing is Deion actually said
it. He said it. But, on one hand, as a player, you can't cry about wanting in the business on one hand, and then when you get in the business, cry about the negative side of it. It's actually a great life lesson. Well, you want to get paid to play, right? Okay, that's fine. Well, you're expendable. Like if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're open to criticism. And I would much rather, and this happens everywhere, but it doesn't happen, it's not broadcast. Like there's you don't see the cameras in the meetings where this happens. I've got no problem with the coach saying, hey man, look, the best interest for you as a player and for us as a program is for you to transfer. And now you have freedom in the transfer portal where it's never been easier. Hell, you can actually probably make more money going somewhere else, maybe even going down to accumulate more money as opposed to staying. I've got no problem with that. What I do have a problem with is when you go on social media, regardless if that player said something or not, you are the head coach. That should be above you. It does look somewhat immature to me. So on one hand, I don't think Deion is wrong telling a guy to transfer and then that guy doesn't transfer and you don't practice him. I tried to tell you and you didn't listen. So I'm not going to put our team's well-being beneath yours when it comes to me getting paid to win games. This is how I put food on my family's table. So, and in Deion, Deion has enough money where he doesn't have to do it, but that's not the point. So I think, multiple things can be true at once. As far as Shedeur Sanders, it's just a bad business decision. You ain't got to like the guy. You can think the guy sucks, but I don't know how you look at what just happened to Spencer Rattler, where supposedly NFL GMs dropped him down because of a documentary that he made when he was 17 years old. And the guy's done nothing but change his mental makeup. And I think he's going to be better for it. And look, I said on the show, can Shedeur get away with more? Yeah, he can. Number one, he's Shedeur Sanders, right? Number two, the quarterback crop that will be coming out next year is not nearly as deep as the one that came out this year. So maybe he can afford a little bit of social media prowess, I guess is the best way to put it. But at the end of the day, it's just a bad business decision. No NFL GM is going to look at that and be like, God, I definitely want to draft him top 5 now. Like he's making fun of an FCS player now. So again, we're talking about them. That's great. But I'm telling you, Barrett, if they're not better up front, they're going to get beat by North Dakota State game 1, and they're not going to win 4 games.
No, I 100% agree, but I think they are going to be better up front because honestly, they can't be worse. And a lot of those guys are gone. So that's one thing. And you're right about this. And I said this on the show too. It's like, okay, Deion came in with the Louis Vuitton and all that other stuff and said, hey, look, some of you guys are not good enough to play here. And you have to be okay if you're not one of those guys. Like just flat out, you have to be. But I think there's a reason, Bet Online sponsors the show, and they went.
Same here.
Shedeur was the likely number 1 pick on Monday of last week. On Wednesday, he was the 3rd most likely. And it's because of this. It's not like anything drastically changed, right? It's because you have to be smarter. You have to represent your school and your family better. And this is the one thing with Shedeur. Like the Deion stuff was unnecessary too, totally unnecessary. And that's a separate conversation. But with Shedeur, you've had the same head coach for 22 years.
Yeah.
Like Deion's been your head coach for 22 years. You're not only representing the family, you're representing the school, and you're the leader of that program. You have to be smarter than that. So the Deion talking on social media to me is almost secondary. It's the fact that maybe he's just not coaching in a way where his leaders know how to represent the school. And I can't imagine what that's going to be like next year when he's going to have a quarterback who does not carry the Sanders name.
Yeah, like can you imagine Jalen Milroe saying that? Like, can you imagine like Carson Beck saying that? Like it's here's what's I
Kirby
think
Smart would lose it.
Oh, he'd lose his mind because again, you're doing nothing but hurting us. And again, you can have your personal opinions. And look, man, we live in America. If you want to tweet something, do it. But I can still say it's a bad business decision. To the Deion thing quickly, though, I would much rather, like to me, what Deion did telling the guy to transfer, that was actually love. You want to know what's evil? What's evil is bringing the guy in and saying, no, man, you don't need to transfer. You can play here. You're going to get a shot. And then just hanging him around so you can have some 3rd string guy in case there's anybody that gets hurt and really not playing him. That is the evil way to do it. But if you're Shedeur, here's where I think NFL GMs and coaches worry. Like you're in college football, you're Deion Sanders' kid, and you're a hell of a player. I don't think anybody can doubt Shedeur Sanders is a pretty daggum good football player, pretty good quarterback. But when you walk in that NFL locker room, they don't care that you're Deion Sanders' son Are you kidding me? That's the thing with Caleb Williams. You'll be the face of the franchise and things like that, but you're walking into a totally different. Oh, this is full-grown men. These are
Yeah, these are adults.
30-something-year-old men that rely on you being the quarterback to do your job on and off the field, so they can keep living the lifestyle and change their families' trajectories for most of them. So you want to talk about alienating people really quickly or getting put in your place very quickly? You go try and pull that in the NFL, and that locker room has a way of eating you alive, buddy. It's happened many, many times. So it's something that, and I hope Shedeur can use it as a lesson. I hope it's a learning lesson. Now, Willie, I don't know. I don't know if there's much you can tell Shedeur Sanders right now that he's going to take serious from a, hey, you need to get better at this standpoint.
Well, yeah, I agree. And, we saw that last week because he got criticized for all of this. And then that night had a Twitter space for 15, 20 minutes where him and his buddies, all they did was rip on this kid. It's like, dude, you have to be better than this.
Like, who's around you? You got to have better friends. It's like Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
Like, why are you going to massage parlors? You're a rich, good-looking NFL quarterback, dude. Stop doing it. Or like Patrick Mahomes' dad, somebody get this man an Uber. Or somebody go pick this guy up. Like, you have the worst friends ever.
It's the 100% the truth. It's what goes back to something that I've said for a long time. Every organization, whether it's an architecture firm, a football program, does not matter. They need to have a VP of common sense. Where in an ideal world, they don't say anything. In a perfect world, that dude just sits in the corner of a board meeting and doesn't say a damn word ever until somebody has a stupid idea.
Yeah, well, and it's like I guarantee you a company that needs it right now is him. Somebody should have sat in the corner and said, no, don't send that. Bro, don't send that.
Let's hold off on some bad tweets. That's for sure. So let's go West Coast. Tell me if I'm wrong about this. Lincoln Riley has a philosophical problem that he's too stubborn to change, because you go back and look at Oklahoma and even his 2 years at USC, it's like they don't even practice tackling. It's like, look, I believe in the mantra of defense doesn't win championships, just enough defense wins championships, and that's a moving target based on personnel, philosophy, all that other stuff. But Lincoln is too married to that philosophy. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I just wonder now, are we going to finally see the change because he got rid of Alex Grinch? Like, is it something to where a new guy comes in there and Lincoln's willing to say, listen, I understand where my fault is. We keep seeing the same movie every year with Lincoln Riley. Like, it is. Whether it's Oklahoma, whether it's USC. Now, again, I hope he figures it out, because I think Lincoln could be one of the greats if he does figure it out. And he knows balance is what wins. Like, I don't care if it's basketball. I don't care if it's baseball. I don't care if it's football. When you're playing in a sport where there's a postseason, where it's single elimination or a series, NCAA tournament's a great example. UConn could beat you 95-90, and they could beat you 66-61.
Yep.
They can win in multiple ways. We see this in football all the time. I always use the example of even the best offenses we've ever seen. LSU 2019. They needed that defense to beat Auburn. There were a couple games where the offense is not going to be operating at an unbelievably or incredibly efficient level. And you need that defense or special teams or defense and rebounding and free throw shooting, or, the fielding behind the pitcher to make a couple great plays to be able to save you in a tight game. Sometimes, right, you got to be able to dribble with your left. And Lincoln not only can't dribble with his left, he doesn't go left. There is no left. It's just right. We're going to try and outscore you, and eventually that gets you beat. So I hope he's figured it out, but here's the problem, and I've been on teams like this. When you're an offensive guy, all right, and this is why I think what makes Sarkisian so impressive. Sark is an offensive guy. He's the play caller. But if you go watch their practices, he's everywhere at practice. He's on the defensive side. When they're going team, he'll root for the defense and the offense. He just wants good football. That's what he wants. And there's a balance there. It seems like USC with Alex Grinch and Lincoln Riley had two head coaches. Lincoln Riley was the head coach of the offense, and Alex Grinch was the head coach of the defense. And when you do that, you cannot win, and you will not win. Nick Saban, defensive coach. Everybody, when you're a chef, you always make that one great dish. But one great dish doesn't make a restaurant. The menu makes the restaurant. So I know Lincoln Riley knows this, Barrett. If we know this, Lincoln knows this. He's had to hear this from everywhere. But are you willing to change? What made Nick Saban so great And what makes Kirby Smart so great and the top coaches that are able to have these long-term successful runs, they're malleable even when they're at the top. Nick Saban cried and moaned about the hurry up, no huddle and the way the game was changing for 2
And
years.
he was installing it at the same time.
And when he realized it wasn't going to change, regardless of how upset he got or whatever, he decided to just go be the best at it, even when he was at the top. That's the difference.
Yeah, you mentioned you referenced being a chef for USC. I view it like as a corporation. It's almost like Lincoln is the VP of marketing, Alex Grinch was the VP of operations, and there was no CEO overlooking the whole thing.
That's exactly right.
It's like, well, Lincoln, you actually have to have your hands in the cookie jar. I think a lot of it's almost like he took the CEO role a little too far, right? He's like, okay, well, I'm going to let my coaches coach, but only on the defensive side. Only only there. Can't do anything else. It's like frustrating because they can be so good, but I'm sick of watching 55 to 45 games at USC because they should be better. And I thought they would be better because I thought that Lincoln would be able to utilize the portal, utilize the West Coast and the recruiting base, and actually form a complete team. But he just doesn't try. He dubbed himself the king of the portal. And I'm looking around going, where? With Bear Alexander? Come on. Yeah. Like, he couldn't even start at Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, he's transferred more times than Western Union. But like you always say, you hear the saying, you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. Well, you have two head coaches, you don't have one. And in fact, Lincoln Riley did the opposite of what has made Kyle Whittingham and Dan Lanning so successful in the Pac-12, right? What did they build their team on? Balance and physicality, right? You can't be Cirque du Soleil and win this thing. That's not how it works. So I hope Lincoln's figured it out. I think you have to change the way you go about things structurally. And that doesn't mean you can't call the plays, Barrett. That doesn't mean we see guys that are successful that call the plays. It's detaching yourself from saying, I'm an offensive guy that's the head coach of a football team. It's no, I'm a football guy that's the head coach of all the football team. And if Lincoln doesn't take that next step, then we're going to continue to see this over and over and over again. And USC is not a soft place. Like, that's the funny thing. I remember watching USC under Pete Carroll physically beat teams to death. It wasn't just the flash and sizzle. It was the hammer on the nail. I mean, they
went to Auburn in 2003 and absolutely
shut them out with a freshman quarterback in Matt Leinart.
And Herschel Dennis as the running back.
Man, I'm telling you, and he knows it. But again, it's one thing to know it, right? It's one thing to know I need to lose weight. It's another one to go get your ass on the treadmill.
Yeah. Well, I can't do the treadmill anymore. My knee. I do cycling.
Well, listen. Look, it's you get your Lance Armstrong on, Barrett, however you feel.
Right. Yeah. The doctor said I had arthritis, and I was like, can we just call it something else?
Well, the funniest, Louis C.K. is the funniest thing about this. He's like, when you're younger, and you hurt your ankle and you go to the doctor and they're like, hey man, we're going to fix this. We're going to go in there and do surgery and fix this. Then when you get older, when you're 45 and you go in there, you're like, man, my ankle. He's like, yeah, no, you're just like this now.
Right.
This is just you now.
This is not okay. This is not okay at all. So let's spin it forward with Georgia. Look, I don't like using the word dynasty for a team that doesn't have the national championship right now, because there only can be one ruler, right? There's only can be one ruling family. So you don't have to have a dynasty all the time. With that said, 2 national championships in 21 and 22. And then I think just by a circumstance of a bad landscape, Georgia doesn't make the playoff last year. But in reality, they might have been the best team in the country. So with Georgia now on the brink of that dynasty, I guess you could possibly say. And I think we all expect them to probably be number 1 preseason, could be number 2, whatever. Who is the biggest threat nationally to Georgia right now?
Nationally, if we're looking roster-wise, I do think it is Ohio State. I think Ohio State has the second best roster in college football. You look at what they added through the portal, and obviously the sense of urgency at Ohio State is at an incredible all-time high, not only just for Ryan Day, but for those players in that fan base too. I mean, Ryan Day looked at everybody and said, give me $13 million and I'll go win us a national championship. Well, you got $13 million.
More than that.
Yeah, you end up getting more than that. You get Michigan at home this year, right? When I look from a conference standpoint, and some people scoff at this, and that's okay. It's like I said, if I want to make people happy, I'd sell cookies and ice cream for a living. But I think in the conference, in the SEC, I think Ole Miss is the biggest threat to Georgia. And it's not that I think Ole Miss has the best team in the SEC. I think Georgia has the best team in the SEC. I think you can make an argument that Texas has a better roster than Ole Miss. I think you can make the argument that Alabama has a better roster than Ole Miss. But if you think about Georgia, they got embarrassed by Alabama in Atlanta last year, kept them out of the playoff. You think they're going to overlook that game? First off, it's Alabama, right? But you think they're going to overlook that game on the road? What's a better way to kind of regain your dominance other than to go and beat them at their place, right? To make up for that loss. Then you got Texas coming to the SEC for the first time. They're walking into the prison. Somebody's got to punch them in the face first. And Georgia's the biggest, baddest in the prison right now. So they're not going to overlook that one. But then you look at Ole Miss right there. People say, I don't care what you say, all right, to the common fan, to the common person, to probably the common SEC player. The name Ole Miss does not strike the fear of God in you the way that Alabama and Texas does. You can do all the mental gymnastics you want. You can try and say it, but people still view Ole Miss kind of like the way they view USC right now. Really good on offense, can't tackle anybody on defense, even though last year they led the league in turnover margin. They were one of the tops in the league at disruption in the backfield. And I think LSU and Ole Miss have traded places. I think Ole Miss is now the more complete team with dynamic players on offense and a defense that is capable and a defensive line and a front seven that is capable. And LSU is now just the high-flying offense that goes out there and tries to outscore you, which I'm telling you right now, Ole Miss gets Georgia at home. That game, remember last year, Jackson Dart was hurt. The offense didn't play very well. And Ole Miss doesn't have it's always a tough schedule in the SEC, but you have lighter and heavier ones. When you look at Ole Miss, their schedule's a lot lighter than a lot of the other ones. And you look at Georgia's, as good as they are, I mean, you got Clemson off the rip. You've got Bama on the road. I mean, you've got Texas. You've got to go to Ole Miss. I mean, it's I think Ole Miss is dangerous within the conference, but Ohio State on the periphery.
Yeah, and I think underrated part of Ole Miss is the fact that they actually are pretty talented at running back. I know losing Quinshon Judkins is tough, but I think Bentley and Diggs, they're both pretty darn solid. Getting back to Ohio State, I agree with you that they're the biggest threat to Georgia. I will say this, though, two things. One, whenever you have a team saying like hashtag unfinished business or whatever, the same thing happened with Clemson in 2018, Georgia in 21, Florida State last year. That matters in this day and age. When you have veterans that come back and say, hey, I want to be a part of this and I want to continue and build and finally finish things off, that's big. And Ohio State has that. My holdup with Ohio State is that I don't think Will Howard is very good. I think he was not going to start at Kansas State. Avery Johnson basically unseated him. And I think right now it's up to Ryan Day to make a decision and not necessarily view it as experience versus talent. To me, if I'm Ohio State, I would consider Will Howard like Tyler Buckner last year. The guy you come in, you really think he's okay and can provide some stability, but you don't really want him to be the starting quarterback because I don't think he can win at that level. I do think Julian Sayin can. I do think Aaron Nolan can. I'm not necessarily sure about Devin, but I think to me, Will Howard's not going to win you a national championship. Other guys in that depth chart can, and I wonder if Ryan Day, how he's going to use Will Howard. Is he going to be a starter, or is he going to be like Tyler Buckner?
Yeah, well, you know, they say in NASCAR, you don't have to have the best driver. You just have to have the best car. I think what Will Howard's got to be able to do is not run the car into the wall. Don't be the difference, be the reason. I don't think they're going to – I think the RPO game is something that's going to open up a lot more for Ohio State. I think they're going to be a little bit different offensively this year with his running ability. Devin Brown, I haven't seen enough from him throwing the ball to be like, yeah, he definitely can do it, and the other guys are young. When I look at Ohio State, I do see they have both their tackles and their center coming back. The offensive line should be really good. The skill position, I mean, at this point, it's just hilarious how talented Ohio State is. On the outside, we know they're going to be good at running back. And then defensively, I think this has a chance to be the best defense in the country that Ohio State has returning when you look at it from the front to the back. And then you add Caleb Downs from Alabama as well, who I think is the best DB in the country. I don't care what anybody says coming into 2024. So it comes to the point of, yes, would you love to have the best quarterback in the country? Of course you would. To marry it up with what Ohio State has. You just, if you're Ohio State, you it's almost unfortunate because you could have the best team you've had in a long time and be the worst you've been in a while at quarterback. I just wonder, all those people that were trashing Kyle McCord last year who went 11-1.
Yep.
11-1. And I know they had some Lambos on the outside. Just look at the NFL draft. They got some more coming back with Jeremiah and those other guys. And then you look at the tight end position, they're talented. I think Will just has to not screw it up, which is a lot easier said than done. And I'll be interested to see Ryan Day and the amount of risk that he's willing to take on early downs throwing the ball. That's the part that I'm interested to see.
All right, last thing. Billy Napier has the worst schedule on the planet, and it's not just the SEC. It's Miami, it's Florida State, it's UCF, which I think UCF is going to be way better than people realize. But I hate to put a number on it because I won't with Florida, because there could be a 7-5 that feels way different than another 7-5.
Yes.
Right. So if you're Florida and you're the athletic director, if you're Foley or not Foley, if you're Strickland or if you're Ben Sass, the president, what do you want to see from Florida just to be content with keeping him?
Well, and Barrett, you're 100% correct. Every 7-5 is not made the same. Every 8-4 is not made the same. I think if Florida needs to beat somebody they're not supposed to beat, that they need to beat somebody that nobody thinks they have a chance to beat. I think he can get away with 7 if that happens. But the main thing is, you've got to put a competent product out on the field. I think what's hurt Billy Napier the most, and look, it's Florida. The standard is incredibly high, and it should be. We've seen how good Florida can be, and we know how talented that state is alone just in high school recruiting, let alone being the national brand that they are. But it's the way that they've lost, right? And I'll give you a great example. Utah, game 1 last year. Utah comes out, score a touchdown. You score 1 right back. You stop them, should have a 3-and-out. It's 4th and 4. And you have 2 guys with the number 12 jersey go out on punt return. On 4th and 4, it's a 5-yard penalty. They get a first down, score a touchdown on that drive. And that ended up being kind of the pulling away point where it felt like Florida was always catching up. It seems like they're not organized. That's what because you cannot win if you are not organized. And the penalties, right? I thought Graham Mertz played way better than I expected him to last year.
Me
and in
too.
reality, they had a top 50 offense in the country. So it wasn't like the product was just awful. But you have got to stop. Look, if you're going to lose because you just got beat, not because you beat yourself. So if I had to put a number on it, at least if it's going to be 7, it better be the right 7. You better beat somebody you're not supposed to, and it better look good and clean and crisp around there, and you should handle business against the teams you're supposed to handle. But Barrett, last year we're sitting here saying, all right, well, they're probably not going to fire Billy Napier, last year because they don't want that new coach to inherit this 2024 schedule in his first year when you're probably going to get gutted by the portal and start off on the wrong foot. Well, go look at 2025. It's not getting any easier. It's pretty much the same thing. You're just flipping where you're going on the road and at home. So I think they want every avenue they can possibly pursue to keep Billy Napier. They are hoping for that. I don't think it's hey, we want to fire this guy. Let's let him get his ass beat this year, and then we'll fire him. I think they're going to try and do everything they can to hold on, and I hope Billy figures it out because I do think Billy has a chance to be a good football coach. It's just you can't look incompetent. It's like they say, fat and slow is a bad way to go through life.
Yes, it is. Well, and I would say, to add on, you can't go 0-2 against Miami and UCF.
No,
you got to get at least one of those. You got to get at least one of those.
Florida State going undefeated didn't help either.
No, it did not. There's no doubt about that. Jake, it's awesome to talk to you. You're always welcome on this show. You do a great job over at Daily Wire on Crain and Company. Tell everybody how they can get you.
Well, same thing here, Barrett. We love when you come on the show. You always kill it. Our audience loves you. Look, if you like listening to Barrett, which if you don't, that's a you problem, then you're going to love checking out Crain and Company. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Daily Wire Plus, CRAINN Company. We go live each weekday morning, 6:30 a.m. Central to 8 a.m. We have live calls and a live chat. Talk a little bit of everything, but look, we know football's the big bad wolf. We know that. But Barrett, it's always fun, buddy. And come on, Braves. All right, I know we got a long way to go. Let's get back
offense.
Just a little bit. Come on, Matt Olson. Figure it out.
I want Matt Olson over 200, like baby steps, just over 200.
The good thing is we have 411 regular season games left, so there's plenty of time for the Braves to figure it out.
It's been too long without an offense, though. Just saying.
Very true.
This is getting annoying. Jake, appreciate it.
Anytime, buddy.
That will just about do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Really appreciate Jake Crain checking out the show and talking a little bit about what is going on in the world of college football. Again, go to Crain and Company, watch it on Daily Wire, follow them on all the social media accounts. They do a great job, especially on X/Twitter. You can get all of their highlights, whether it be what Jake says, what Blaine says, or what David Cohn says. They do a great job. As always, this show has been presented by Bet Online. We will wrap things up. Until tomorrow, everybody, have a great day.